Hello guys, welcome back to my channel When Humanities is Life. In the last video we discussed about the first part of parties and party system, largely chapter 2, era of one party dominance. We looked into the various features of the Congress party, how it was a party that was a social and an ideological coalition, how it encompassed different views, different factions which stayed within the party, which made the party so broad based. And as a result, from 1952 to 1967, Congress, Indian National Congress, was the party which managed to get all the votes of the people, most of the votes. It was a majority, and the politics of the country was very stable. Congress party was the only party which was in a position of getting all the votes. But slowly with time this changed. Why? Let us see. In this chapter, we will be discussing about part chapter 5 of this textbook, challenges and restoration of the Congress system. We will see what were the challenges that the Congress party faced, and whether it was restored or not, how it was restored. So let's start. First of all, the Congress party's popularity was based on, apart from being a very broad based party, on the leadership of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. He was an undisputedly charismatic and popular leader. But he died in 1964. He had been unwell for many days, and finally he died in 1964. After his death, the country faced a number of challenges. What happened? There were many unresolved problems like poverty and unemployment. Apart from that, in the military field, the country was facing many difficulties with the neighbors. As a result, there was a rising military expenditure. Economy was also in a loggerhead kind of a situation. So, in the situation, other doubts, such as who will be the next prime minister, this was the question. S- some of the critics or some of the apprehenders, they even stated, or they were apprehensive of the fact that whether democracy in India could survive after Jawaharlal Nehru. So there were doubts about a democratic succession, and the 1960s, it's termed as as the dangerous decades. But what happened? K. Kamraj, the president of the Congress party, he decided to make Lal Bahadur Shastri as the next prime minister. Now he had a very clean image. He was a very popular leader too. He was from Uttar Pradesh and he was committed to principles. Earlier, he had taken moral responsibility for a major railway accident, and he had been the railway minister in the Nehru cabinet, but he resigned later. Now he was unanimously chosen. Unanimously means without any debate. Everyone, without any debate and discussion, without any problem, had chosen Lal Bahadur Shastri as the next prime minister after Jawaharlal Nehru. Now he was chosen as the prime minister, but his tenure as the prime minister was extremely short. He was chosen as the prime minister in 1964, but he died in 1966. In this brief period, he had done certain things we will know. Now, his death is also a very mysterious thing to discuss. You know, he went to Tashkent to sign the Tashkent Agreement with Pakistan, namely with General Ayub Khan in 1966, on 10th January 1966, but he died in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Now, there was some accident with bones or something. It's not very clear. His death remains an enigma. But some people say he was murdered. Some people say it was an accident. We don't really know. It has remained one of the most mysterious things to discuss. But keeping aside all kind of mysteriousness and what do you call it, those controversies, let's move to the next part. Now he is immortalized with the slogan "Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan." In his brief tenure, the country faced primarily two challenges. First of all, economic challenges. We know how difficult it was for India at that point of time. It was in a very bad state in terms of economy. Export oriented activity was limited. All the things were in a non conducive uh, state for India. And even militarily, India faced a war with Pakistan in 1967. As a result, crucial resources were diverted to the military field. But His slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jawan means a soldier, Kisan means a farmer, this symbolizes the nation's resolve to solve both these problems. Now, when he died in 1966, the death of Lal Bahadur Shastri, it led to another round of vacuum. Again, the question of who will be the next prime minister, it loomed large. Now, what happened? There was an intense rivalry between Indira Gandhi, the daughter of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, and Morarji Desai. He was also a very experienced leader. Previously, he had been the chief minister of the bilingual Bombay state earlier, so he was very experienced. But Indira Gandhi won by a two-third majority. Now, how did she win? You must wonder. She managed to get the majority from the leaders of the Congress party because the Congress party leaders who were experienced, who were senior, they were the kingmakers, stalwarts of the party. They decided to back up Indira Gandhi with the intention to make her a puppet monarch, a puppet prime minister, rather. They knew that Indira Gandhi was a novice. Now she was in this politics for a very limited point of time. She has been a minister in Lal Bahadur Shastri's cabinet, but she was a novice. She was very young at that point of time, and she didn't have much experience. So the leaders or the politicians of the Congress party, they wanted to make Indira Gandhi comply with whatever they stated. She can have a token representation in the party. She would be the face of the party, but they would rule actually. That is why they decided to choose Indira Gandhi rather than Morarji Desai. Now, Morarji Desai was an experienced leader. He was very powerful and experienced then. He wouldn't have listened to the leaders of the Congress party. He would have moved on his own. But Indira Gandhi, they thought, will depend upon them since she's a novice. Let's see what Indira Gandhi did to overcome all these difficulties. The four general elections of 1967. Now, this was a very crucial time. The time was actually very bad for India. The economy was in a very bad condition. Two prime ministers died in quick succession, and the new prime minister, Indira Gandhi, was seen as a political novice. Okay, an apprentice who was not very experienced, rather. She had been in office for less than 1 year and she had to face this fourth general election. Just imagine the situation for her and her party. Well, the period was fraught with a grave economic crisis resulting from a number of things. First of all, successive failure and decline in agricultural production, serious food shortage, depletion of foreign exchange reserves, industrial production dropped, export related activities were also limited, there was a sharp rise in military expenditure. Resources were diverted from planning and economic development to military. Now, in the situation, people started to protest against the increase in essential commodities. There was a lot of food scarcity, and unemployment was also growing. As a result, people protested in the form of bandhs and hartals, and the government saw the protests as law and order problem instead of the expression of people's problem. Now, these bandhs and hartals were held because people wanted to express their problems of unemployment and poverty, but the government saw it as a law and order problem. The opposition, namely the communist and the socialist parties, they launched various struggles for equality, and the period also saw some of the worst Hindu Muslim riots. So communal violence was also erupting at this point of time. There was an anti Hindi demonstration in Tamil Nadu, namely in the Madras state, and the first decision that the Indira Gandhi government took was to devaluate the Indian rupee. This was the first decision. Now, do you really think that in this phase of so many issues, will the opposition sit quiet? No way. So, what did they do? The parties opposed to the Congress, the opposition, they realized one thing, that the division of their votes kept the Congress party in power. Alright, I explained this concept in details, how the division of votes made Congress the winner in the last video. Go see that video if you don't understand it. Okay, now the parties entirely of different and disparate ideologies and programs, they came together in a single umbrella to form the anti-government fronts. Ram Manohar Lohia, he's a socialist leader. He coined the term non-congressism, and the result of all these attempts by opposition parties and different other factors in the country resulted in what is called a political earthquake in the fourth general election of 1967. Why is it called a political earthquake? Because the Congress party managed to get a majority in Lok Sabha, but with the lowest tally of seats since 1952. If you remember, it got 364 out of 489 seats in 1952, and ever since it has maintained this position. But this time, half of the ministers in the Indira Gandhi cabinet were defeated. Congress lost majority in 9 states. In many states, Congress lost. Okay, now see, so many leaders like K. Kamraj in Tamil Nadu, S.K. Patel in Maharashtra, Atulya Ghosh in West Bengal, K.B. Saha in Bihar, all of these leaders, the stalwarts. Who were the stalwarts? The stalwarts were the experienced political leaders in the Congress. All these leaders were defeated in states. In 9 states, the Congress lost. What are these states? They lost in Punjab, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Orissa, Madras, and Kerala. And in the Madras state, which comprises of present-day Tamil Nadu, a regional party, the DMK, Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, it came into power by leading a massive anti-Hindi agitation by students, and it was the first time that any non-Congress party, this DMK, had secured a majority of its own in any state. All right, now we come to another crucial thing: the coalitions. What are these coalitions? Well, coalition is a government or is a form of government in which political parties cooperate to form a government. Now, what happens here? There is no one party that is able to win a majority. So, what happens? Many different parties that join hands to win the election. The shared number of votes makes them the winner. No one party wins, different parties win, but together. They unitedly fight in the election and win. Now, the usual reason for the formation of these coalition is that no single party has achieved a majority after an election. As a result, many parties join hands to form the government. That's a coalition government, and an entire phase of the Indian political history is termed as the phase which consists of coalition, because coalition governments became very popular. It refers to this phase. All right. Now, in the coalitional politics in India, however, the ideologies of the political parties have taken a backseat. Now, different political parties with different ideas and programs, they came together. Emphasis is on pragmatic consideration with the main focus on power sharing arrangements. Now, ideologies in such governments are less important. Important is the sharing of power, and such governments are called SVD, Samyukt Vidhayak Dal. They are non-Congress parties which came together, and here the partners are ideologically incongruent. They're different in their ideas. There are many examples of such SVDs, Samyukta Vidhayak Dals. First of all, in Bihar, two socialist parties, SSP and PSP, with CPI on the left and Jansang on the right, came to form the government. Okay. In Punjab, which is, the SVD is called the Popular United Front, two rival Akali parties plus communist parties, the CPI with USSR faction and CPIM on the pro-China faction, SSP Republican Party, Bharatiya Jansangh, all these different parties came together to form the SVD government. And finally, in Madras, we discussed just a little earlier, a regional party, the Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam. Okay, the DMK, it came into power for the first time when non-Congress party came to power on its own by leading an anti-Hindi agitation. So by leading an agitation on a linguistic basis, the DMK came to form the government. That too for the first time a party could win on its own. Now the next thing is defection. You should learn about defection. It's a unique concept actually, but it's very popular too. Now it's banned, it's illegal, the constitution has banned it, but defection had appeared to form a large part of the politics in that phase. All right, now what is defection? You should remember the definition. Defection means an elected representative leaves the party on whose symbol he or she was elected and joins another party. Now, after the declaration of the results of the election, an elected representative leaves the party on whose symbol he or she was elected. It became, as I said, an important feature of Indian politics in this post 1967 phase. The breakaway Congress legislators after 1967 played an important role in installing non Congress governments in three states, in UP, MP, and in Haryana. The constant realignments as in changing of position and shifting political loyalties, different people are joining different parties by leaving Congress. It gave rise to the expression Ayaram Gayaram. Okay, now as we discussed earlier, the syndicate comprising of the powerful and influential leaders of the Congress, it expected Indira Gandhi to comply to whatever they said. But she took steps to sideline the syndicate. She wanted to assert her independence. As a result, now the syndicate leaders were opposed to Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi wanted to be independent and she did assert that independence. She had taken certain steps to assert this independence. The first and the most significant of that step was the 10-point program. It was a policy with left orientation. You must know the concept of left and right. Left are those people who are in favor of the poor and the downtrodden section. They are in favor of those government policy which favors these people. Okay, in May 1967, the 10-point program was launched. It involves the social control of banks, nationalization of general insurance, ceiling on urban property income. So, how much property and a person can own, and also limitations on income, public distribution of food grains, land reforms, provision of house sites to rural poor, then abolition of the privy purses. The 10-point program, you can see that this program is inevitably reflecting a left orientation or the principles of the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. You must have known about the concepts that they follow: socialism and communalism. Not communalism, it's communism, sorry. So these things basically refer to an orientation of a controlling where the government controls everything. The government has everything under its control. The state controls the property, sources of production, everything. So Indira Gandhi wanted to make India um, a nation which follows this socialism. She openly declared that socialist pattern of government was their goal, and the 10-point program, all these policies under it, it established Indira Gandhi's independence within the party, and she regained the ground that the Congress had lost in 1967 election. Now you must wonder how. How did she regain the ground? Now she didn't regain it immediately. She regained it after some years. In 1971, we had an election. After that, she had proved that she was no doubt a very efficient leader of the country. Now the syndicate consisting of the influential leaders, they formally approved of the 10-point program, but they had many reservation about it. They were opposed to Indira Gandhi. They didn't like her. Okay, now this split of the Congress, this rivalry of Indira Gandhi and the syndicate, this became clear and evident after 1967 following the death of President Zakir Hussain. So the presidential elections of 1967 is a turning point of the Congress. The syndicate nominated N. Sanjeeva Reddy as the official Congress presidential candidate. Now, N. Sanjeeva Reddy, this candidate, I mean, he was the speaker of um, the Lok Sabha back then, and he was a long time political opponent of Indira Gandhi. Now, Indira Gandhi didn't want him to be the president. She encouraged V.V. Giri, V.V. Giri to file nomination as an independent candidate. He was not supposed by the not supported by the Congress. He was an independent candidate, and Indira Gandhi wanted him to be the next president. And she also took many policy measures like nationalization of as many as 14 banks and abolition of the privy purses. The What are the privy purses? Privy purses means certain expenses are given to the princes of the princely states. Those things were abolished, and it was a very bold move. After independence, the princes were promised that they would be given some money for their consideration of merging with the Union of India. Now it was abolished in view of equality and all such ideologies. This was a very bold policy. Indeed, it was a justified policy of Indira Gandhi. All these bold decisions, increased her popularity. Now, the Congress party, comprising of the syndicate, it wanted N. Sanjeeva Reddy to be the winner in the presidential elections anyhow. What happened? S. Nijalingappa, the Congress president, he issued a whip asking all Congress MPs and MLAs to vote for the official candidate N. Sanjeeva Reddy. But Indira Gandhi, she requisitioned or attended a special meeting of AICC, All India Congress, but she refused to accept N. Sanjeeva Reddy as the official Congress. And later, Indira Gandhi openly called for conscience vote. What is conscience vote? Conscience vote means that all the Congress MPs and MLAs should be free to vote the way they want. They can vote for N. Sanjeeva Reddy if they want. They can vote for Vivi Giri if they want. That was what Indira Gandhi stated openly now. She was not complying with the Congress party's decision. As a result, she was expelled by the Congress president. So she was terminated from the party. Now, what happened in the presidential election finally? VV Giri, supported by Indira Gandhi, an independent candidate, he won the election. And the defeat of N. Sanjeeva Reddy formalized the split of the party. Okay, as I said, Indira Gandhi was expelled from the Congress party. The Congress group led by the syndicate was called the Congress Organization, Congress O, and the group led by Indira Gandhi was called Congress R, Congress Requisitionists. Why? Because they requisitioned or attended a meeting of AICC we discussed earlier. Now, Indira Gandhi stated that it's a split between the socialists and the conservatives. The restoration of the Congress after this in 1971, we have discussed that Indira Gandhi could gain the ground that she lost in 1967. We also stated that we will discuss how she did that. Now, this is how she did that. In 1971, the split reduced the Indira Gandhi's government to a minority one, and it continued with support from other parties. Well, many other parties like the CPI, the Communist Party, the pro USSR faction supported Congress. Now, to seek a popular mandate, Indira Gandhi she recommended the dissolution of Lok Sabha, and fresh midterm elections were held in February 1971. This was a very bold move. You can imagine that Indira Gandhi's government was then a minority. Congress R was a minority. All the senior leaders were in Congress O. And in such a situation, all individuals would want some time to campaign for election and to think of something, plan for something. But Indira Gandhi had taken a bold move. She decided to dissolve the Lok Sabha and declare fresh midterm election. Now, to make things more difficult for Indira Gandhi's small government or small party, all the opposition leaders they joined hand, okay, into what was called a grand alliance. It was an alliance of all the opposition parties, and it involved many political parties like the SSP, PSP, Bharatiya Jansangh, Swatantra Party, Bharatiya Kranti Dal. It all came together under this umbrella, and Indira Gandhi had an alliance with only CPI. Okay, but if you see, Indira Gandhi's government had one thing. It had an issue, an agenda, and a positive slogan. It had a positive slogan, Garibi Hatao. India had a very grave crisis with respect to its economy. Then it was not exactly crisis, but it still required urgent attention. And Garibi Hatao, it was in perfect consonance with what the nation wanted back then. It was a positive program. It incorporated different social categories like women and children, economy, everything. So this made Indira Gandhi develop an independent nationwide support base for her program. So what happened finally? The result of the election of 1971, well, the Congress R and the CPI alliance won all the seats, perhaps. Okay, it won 375 votes and secured 48.4% of the popular votes. The Congress Requisition is a small party of Indira Gandhi alone won 352 seats in the Lok Sabha, and Congress organization couldn't even get 16% of the seats. So that was a huge defeat of the Congress O. And it's said comically that the grand alliance of the opposition party, which consisted of so many parties, proved to be a grand failure. The Congress party led by Indira Gandhi claimed to be the real Congress. The Congress are requisitionists, they claimed to be the real Congress, and it restored the position of the Congress. This is all about the challenges to and the restoration of the Congress system. Now, again, there are certain questions regarding whether it was actually restored or not. Was it a restoration or something else? The new Congress was a reinvented party, but it relied entirely on the popularity of a supreme leader. Indira Gandhi was everything of the party. It had a somewhat weak organizational structure, and there were not many factions, so it could not accommodate all kinds of opinions and interests within it lacked the capacity to absorb tensions and conflicts that the Congress system was known for. Previously, if you remember, there were so many factions, so many voices within the Congress party, but now it was a really small party, so it lacked such things. The spaces for democratic expressions of people also lessened. As a result, what happened? It was dependent on some social groups for its success, like poor, Garibi Hatao. Such programs were aimed to incite feelings of the poor. It was based on the minorities, women, the Dalits, the Adivasis. So the Congress party now, it was a reinvented party, but it was not the same anymore. It didn't encompass different kinds of feelings within the party. No, it was very different now. Now I will be discussing some additional things too with this chapter, because trust me, it's also there in the chapter. First of all, bi-party system and multi-party system. Now, bi-party, you can know, bi-party means two-party system. It's an arrangement in which two major political parties or two alliances, they dominate elections, but there are various other parties who are fighting in the election. Okay, so there is a great influence of these two major political parties on the political system of the country. Any one party or alliance, it can hold a majority in the legislature, and it will be then referred to as the governing or the ruling party. The other party will then be a minority. And in multi-party system, what happens? It's a political system, it's an ideal form of situation in which multiple political parties across the political spectrum run for national elections, and they do have the chances of winning. They do have the capacity to gain control of the government offices separately or in a coalition. Now, India follows multi-party system both at the national and regional or state levels. They often reflects tendency of the diverse groups and opinions. Well, in a democracy, there are there is a room for debate and discussion. There is a place of differences, the recognition of diversity. So multi-party system is an ideal form of a system that should be practiced in any country. And in India too, we have a multi-party system, at least in the central and the state level, everywhere. So that's it, guys. I think that is all that you need to score good marks in your exams. And let me tell you one thing at the end. I know there are certain confusions regarding what is there in the chapter and what is not there in the chapter. Some people are even saying that chapter 2, era of one party dominance, is not there in the chapter in the syllabus. But I know it's written in such a way in the content of the syllabus that people are getting confused. But if you don't know part 1 of this chapter, you can't understand the second part. You have to have a thorough knowledge about the Congress system in order to understand how it was restored. So don't listen to rumors. You learn what is there in the syllabus. Do learn era of one party dominance and then come to challenges and restoration to the Congress system. I think that will help you. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. That will help me a lot. And share it with your friends. And if you need anything else, do write in the comment. I will make a video on whatever you want. Thank you so much for seeing my video. Bye.